So Joe Biden, obviously, he's reading the polls, and obviously he's looking at his internal polling, which is probably a lot better than the polls we're getting. And in fact, there was a poll out today, I think from Emerson, which is rated fairly highly as a polling place that had the two of them 2 points apart. So that's an interesting change after the convention. So Joe Biden has to come out. And this is supposed to be what is called now a Sister Souljah moment. And for those of you who are not old enough to remember Sister Souljah, she was like a rapper and an activist, or a hip hop person and an activist, whatever, who started saying all this really ugly stuff. If black people kill black people every day, why not have a week and kill white people, was one of the things she said. And she said if there were any good white people, I haven't met them. And Bill Clinton was running for president, and this was his party, and he was talking to Jesse Jackson's Rainbow Coalition, and he said, you know, if you took the words white and black and you reversed them, you might think David Duke, the Klansman, was giving that speech. Well, Clinton's team had to discuss this for hours. Like, they had a long, long meeting about whether Clinton should actually stand up and say, yeah, maybe killing white people isn't such a good idea. And when they did it, Jesse Jackson denounced Clinton for it, because this is the way we feel. This is our internal, this is our lived experience. So Biden was supposed to come out and do that now. He's supposed to have a Sister Souljah moment where we realize, oh, it's old Joe. He's not one of these radicals. He's not just a wooden puppet standing there with the radicals working him like a ventriloquist dummy. No, it's old Joe. So Joe comes out and makes, I thought, one of the most cowardly, two-faced, lightweight statements you can imagine. Here's a part of it. This is clip 11.
Fires are burning, and we have a president who fans the flames rather than fighting the flames. But we must not burn. We have to build. This president long ago forfeited any moral leadership in this country. He can't stop the violence because for years he's fomented it. You know, he may believe mouthing the words law and order makes him strong. But his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is. Does anyone believe there'll be less violence in America if Donald Trump is reelected?
That's a nice country you got here. It's a shame if anything happens to it. So brave, denouncing Trump for the violence. So how brave is that, man? That really reassures me. He denounces violence on all sides. There is no violence on all sides right now. This is the left burning cities down all over the country, in leftist cities, in leftist states, for leftist reasons, on a leftist narrative that isn't even true. You know, I and Ben Shapiro and just about every other right-wing pundit I can think of, when Trump was running the first time in 2016 and he hesitated for a minute to denounce the Ku Klux Klan. He kind of had a lightweight statement. We slammed him. We jumped on him. Well, there's no difference between the Ku Klux Klan and BLM and Antifa. These are anti-American violent mobs looking with an insurrectionist agenda. I mean, the Klan is kind of useless now, but, or dead now. I mean, they were never useful. But as a hate group, they're kind of second rate. But these guys are very active. It's the same thing. Nobody's calling out Biden. No, now Michelle Goldberg, the leftist columnist in the New York Times and Knucklehead Row, she says Biden condemned violence. Why won't Trump? But Trump has been condemning violence all along. And this is the left. Let me show you. This is a montage someone made of the leftist rhetoric all this time since Trump's been elected. This is cut 5.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
People need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick them.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized up to the right.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should have punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face.
I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
That's the left. That's your left at work. And meanwhile, during their convention a couple of weeks ago, here they are denouncing the violence in their cities, in Democrat-run cities. Here they are denouncing the violence. crickets. You know, and it's not just violence per se. It's not just the violent rhetoric of the left per se. You know, I was watching Donald Trump's speech. I was flying to New York. My plane got rerouted to Philadelphia, so I had a chance to watch his entire convention speech in the air. And you know, when he got to the end of it, there was a part that really got to me. I mean, the speech was long. I thought it was a little too long, maybe a lot too long. But it was pretty good in parts and very good in some parts. And toward the end, it got to be excellent. And here's just a cut I wanted to play, a piece of this, because it makes a point about the way you look at the country. This is cut number 7.
Our opponents believe that America is a depraved nation. We want our sons and daughters to know the truth. America is the greatest and most exceptional nation in the history of the world. Our country wasn't built by cancel culture, speech codes, and soul-crushing conformity. We are not a nation of timid spirits. We are a nation of fierce, proud, and independent American patriots. We're a nation of pilgrims, pioneers, adventurers, explorers, and trailblazers who refuse to be tied down, held back, or in any way reined in. Americans have steel in their spines, grit in their souls, and fire in their hearts. There is no one like us on earth.
Now, I just want to talk about this part of the speech for a second, because he talks about the pioneers. And he talked about them crossing the raging rivers and going out into the plains and settling these empty plains. And I was waiting for him to say, and fighting savages who tried to kill them, because that was the underlying message. The underlying message was, we are not going to regard our country as a guilt-ridden crime spree, which it's not. It is the spread of civilization and freedom. Now, do I know that there was mistreatment and murder of the Indians? Yes, there was. But that's part of what happens when a great nation, a great people spreads out. I mean, it's part of what happens. It should have been done better. It should have been done differently. There should have been mercy. There should have been all kinds of deals that were struck and kept. There's no question about any of that. But that doesn't mean that I don't see anybody on the left giving their land, except in Oklahoma, where the Supreme Court gave it back to the Indians. I don't see anybody giving their New York back to the Indians. Why? Because mankind has to advance. The Indians never invented the wheel. The Native Americans never invented the wheel. You're not going to be able to hold a continent on a small planet full of people who can sail the oceans blue and fly planes and build the things that have been built since then, when you don't invent the wheel. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it's going to be. And so, yes, were there atrocities? Absolutely. But there were atrocities, as they say, on both sides. And that's still no reason not to be proud of what this country does and has done and has accomplished. The world is a better place because America is here. There can be absolutely no question, because if it weren't us here, it would be the communists, it would be the Nazis, it would be some of the other people who have wanted to spread out over the earth. The world is a better place because we're here. So it's not just about denouncing violence. It's about how you look at the country. Is this a country where I have to confess every untoward thought I have to the public, to the people at large? Is this a country where I always have to feel bad about the fact that we built this amazing nation, a greater nation than has ever been on the face of the earth, a more peaceful, more prosperous, more free nation than has ever been on the face of the earth? Am I supposed to feel guilty about that every day? Am I supposed to be posting my confession up because poor me, my heart is full of sin? I know my heart is full of sin. I'm not bringing that sin to you because you can't do anything about it. I bring it to God, who can do and has done things about it. This is the difference. And that's where violence comes in, when you're racked with guilt and you hate this country and you think it's just a criminal place to be. Before you go, one last thing. Hit the subscribe button so that you stay up to date on all our content.